Are you branding your live streams? This can be a great way to amplify your business across sites like YouTube Live, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, Periscope, and more. On this episode, you're going to learn ways to tastefully amplify your brand when live streaming. And so we're going to be talking with Joie Gharrity. And I'm excited to talk about this because she's got a fantastic background in branding. And so, Jim, this is what episode is this we're on?
This is episode 42.
42. Yeah. I mean, we've definitely we've been really getting into
We've been very busy during the pandemic.
we have it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's all about just working smarter, not harder. And so we are continuing to push things forward, and this is part of our Launch Your Live interview series. You may be listening to the podcast. We've also got the YouTube channel as well, but let's go ahead and bring our guest on. So it's fantastic having you join us. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for having me on your show, and congratulations. That is quite a few podcasts.
And
thank you.
You guys have been busy.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's really, I don't even really consider it work. I mean, I enjoy doing it. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I really like hearing from our guests. We take care. We try to take care when we bring on, guests, and make sure that we bring on, people that they have not just an interesting story, but they're able to also share things with our viewers and our listeners. So, I'll go ahead and maybe just take a couple of minutes here, tell people a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
And then also, how did you get started live streaming? I know a lot of people may have said, well, I got started with Blab, maybe, back in 2013, 2014. Maybe Blab was where you started. I'm not exactly sure, but, who are you? What do you do? And how did you get started?
Sure. So my name is Joie Gharrity, and I'm a brand director and the founder of 113 Branding. And how I get started in everything, including live streaming, is influencers. So I had a live stream influencer who took me underneath their wing. We're very close friends. And she's like, you're going to start like live streaming like today. And that's how I jumped into the game. Right. And that was almost 2 years ago. So, and she was so like, she's been in the game for so long that she was able to show me all the ins and outs super, super quickly. I'm also a quick learner. And then I fell in love with it because my background's really in Hollywood. So I worked for 18 plus years down in the Hollywood entertainment business. And what live streaming for me it was like, oh, here's a Hollywood studio that's accessible for everyone globally. Mm-hmm. And we can grow our visibility and influence for our professional and personal brands really, really quickly this way. So it was really an easy entry point for me. I mean, when I saw the bells and whistles and that we all get to be little superstars and we get our little squares and we get to like promote and create one sheets and all that kind of stuff, it was an easy yes.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, and I think working in Hollywood probably makes it much easier compared to someone who doesn't have that background, because you understand the importance of branding and, the fact that, hey, as you mentioned, it gives everyone that little square, that ability, and it opens the door for people. I mean, they can really get into live streaming, and they don't have to have, for example, all that really expensive equipment. I mean, for example, I was listening to something the other day about a camera, and it was like, hey, this camera used to cost, actually, Jem, it was when we were interviewing Doc, and, he was talking about, he had like $100,000 like cameras and things like that they were previously using, and how now all of that is just much more accessible to people, to be able to tell their story, and just share their message. So thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And Joey, do you find though too that like in your case you were able to be a part of like the Hollywood thing? Do you think that sometimes that not so much intimidates people to work with you, but intimidates people to get started? Because like, oh, I could never be like these other people.
Well, I've actually thought about that. And, part of my journey is that I've always really honor and respect people, and I'm known for spotlights. So online, people will like literally know me for spotlighting others. People I've never met before. If I'm digging what they're doing, I spotlight them. It's one of my 113 brand strategies that I'll share with everyone out there. It's actually one of the quickest ways that you can grow your visibility and influence on your brand, but also to be generous with others. And so generosity will goes such a long way, right? And so other influencers are out there. People support those that support them. And so when they saw that I had a general interest in all this, they were more than happy to step in and say, I'll help you because you help me, you help others, you help community. This is what I love about the whole internet game in general, is that these bubbles, I was in a bubble for many, many years. I didn't have any outside interests. Everyone down there, even news, is about box office, okay, returns. And so when I finally popped out of that bubble, it took me a minute to realize that, oh, not everyone's had the same kind of access out there yet.
Mhm.
And yet, with live streaming, everyone has the same access. So I just want to encourage everyone out there, just kick all the fear of technology and all that to the curb. You know, you're going to fail at the beginning. We all did.
Mhm.
All of us out there that's live streaming failed big time at the beginning. I mean, some of our beginning shows, I mean, it's cringeworthy, right? But you know what? We did it. We did it. And I just remember that feeling of just saying, okay, I can do this. And and after a while, it's just like a second skin with you all. I got on this show, right? And we were like all texting everything right before the show. I mean, it will be so easy. It's like a second skin after a while.
Definitely. And
Absolutely.
love the point there, and so as far as spotlighting, can you tell them what that is? So what is spotlighting exactly?
Sure. So the strategy is that so when I was in Hollywood, my first kind of aha tipping point in my professional life is when I saw my name in lights,
Hmm.
right? And that's the end scroll of a movie. And so my first movie I ever worked on was Stargate. And so my brother and I were sitting in the movie theater and we both saw Joie Gharrity, Gavin Garrity was in the credit rolls.
Hmm.
And it was such a life-changing experience, and it was even better because I got to experience with my brother, my best friend. And yet, I remember when I walked out of the theater, I remember, isn't this bizarre that we are we're a society that there's a lot of like bagging on Hollywood, and yet it's probably the only industry that honors and respects every single person that was part of that project.
Hmm.
None of the other corporations do anything like that. And that always stuck with me. So when I launched the 113 branding, that was my first strategy that I put out there is don't forget to roll the credits.
Hmm.
Give other people recognition that they deserve. Shine a spotlight on each other, right? And the spotlight will shine back on you.
It's a great point. So moving into branding.
Sure.
So Jim, branding,
Yeah.
obviously we know it's important, right?
So Joey, why is branding important for a business, and how can they maybe relate that into live streaming for their business as an example?
Right. So branding is really the heartbeat to any business, professional or personal. And I want to say this to people too out there. Even if you're working at a job, you should really be working on your professional brand. It's a way where people can hook into you out there. Human beings don't like to feel dumb and they don't like to sound dumb. And so a lot of times I'll have clients say, well, no one's talking about me. I'm like, because they don't know how to talk about you. There's nothing to hook into yet. No one wants to say, oh, Joey does branding. That is boring. Who cares about that, right?
Hmm.
But when you create a very deep rooted, emotionally connected brand out there, is that I tell people, I said, you want to lead with your actual heartbeat. And so my heartbeat to my brand is all about visibility influence. I don't care if when I walk in a room, I could care less if anyone knows that I do branding. Who cares? That's not the point. But I do care that everyone in there is like, hey, do you need some more visibility influence? Joey's the one to go to. It's something that they can hook into. So I'm just asking the audience members out there, I'm saying, sit back with your brand for a second. And even if you're streaming, if you have a content, overall arching content umbrella of what you're streaming about, but you don't have a heartbeat where people can hook into it, it can fall flat for you. But find the heartbeat, not the output. Find the heartbeat first. And from that heartbeat, then other people in the marketplace can sing your song.
That's fantastic. So sticking with branding, so can you share maybe 3 ways that someone can amplify their brand when they are live streaming? I mean, now that the tools are readily available, there's software out there. I mean, you can get started with, just your computer and your webcam or your smartphone. What are some ways that somebody can amplify that brand when they are live streaming without kind of, just being just overly, what's the word I'm looking for? Just overly complex. Like, are there some, a couple of ways you can think of that people
Yeah, sure.
can amplify
Yeah.
the brand?
I mean, first of all, I say to everyone, be generous, right? Anyone can Google anything at this point, right? So in order to become the main staple or the go-to influencer in your field, share generously your expertise out there. Don't hold back, right? Because that's how people are emotionally connecting with you. Like right now, I just shared one of my top branding strategies. I didn't hold on to that. If it was up to me, I would have everyone globally spotlight each other, right? Because that is how passionate I am about that, right? However, what also is happening, guys, is that there's rarely a time that anyone in the marketplace that knows me, that's emotionally connected with my brand, when they see a spotlight, they're not thinking about me, right? So generously share your expertise. Make sure that the conversation comes along with some tangible values. Philosophies are great during the Roman times when everyone's standing down there and being philosophers on the great steps, right? But in today's marketplace, people need tangibles. So give people real step-by-step tangibles. This will help elevate your that, not just that, but your branding in general, because people then will have a reason to show up all the time for you, because they're like, well, I know Joey's always going to give me a tangible, so I know I'm going to walk away with value, with real value. And then always surround it, always bubble it in really, really good storytelling, right? I also believe two things. Everyone should become an international speaker, guys. So if you're not one yet, become one, right? And also too, and everyone should become an author. It's just such a tipping point, because what it does is it formulates inside of you of like, wow, my stories are powerful and empowering. And sharing that story is a way you entertain. You're entertaining, but you're teaching at the same time, right? That's why everyone was around the campfires since the beginning of time, right? Is that they were just teaching through storytelling. That's all they were doing. So if you admire anyone out there in general, if there's people that you admire, watch their storytelling techniques.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something that I think a lot of people, I guess you could say, fear. I mean, it's part of this whole competition versus collaboration thing where,
Yeah.
as an example, we all know these things, and of course I kind of joke sometimes, a lot of what people are not wanting to share is not rocket science. That there's other people that I mean, there's other people that know things about branding, but like, oh, well, I don't want to give away all my secrets. Well, it's not necessarily a secret. Other people know that as well, but why people will want to work with you is exactly to your point, Joey, is that by sharing and caring, people you resonate with people, and those people are willing to listen to you, even if the person down the street is saying the same exact thing, because you've shown you're in it to help people and not in it for, oh, I've got to get every dollar. And I think that's such a powerful message that you share.
Yeah, I have a quote that I just started rolling out, and there's plenty of spotlight to go around. I want people to understand it's not that I'm a better brander necessarily than someone that's sitting next to me. As a matter of fact, I am sure I'm surrounded by people that could blow me out of the water in their own essence, but it's that I have a very unique point of view. And my unique point of view is tangible, and people they can speak it, they can understand it, and then they can implement it right away. On some, I'll watch some stream I'll watch some podcasts or listen to some podcasts and watch some stream shows, and it's so over people's heads. And I'm like, there's no emotional connectability between that, right? But if you could just boil it down to, and that's what the movie, I'll tell you, the Hollywood industry understands this so very well. They understand you got to talk to the ticket buyer the same way that they need to be talked to, right? So you don't talk about it's a blockbuster, it's going to be the biggest movie of all time, right? That's not what they want to hear. They want to hear what's the heartbeat to the movie. What's that hook, right? Oh, there's an egg and there's an alien and it's in space. That's pretty interesting. I might show up and pay some money for that, right? Not that it's a horror movie by a genre director that was done in space. That goes womp, 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 right? So everyone out there, as you are developing out your product lines and your streaming and whatever else you're doing, you really want to come back again and just say, how can the marketplace sing my song? This is what, the way I teach is I was like, because when we have to sing our song by ourselves, guys, we'll never be Lady Gaga, ever. But if we could sing one tune and other people can sing along with us, that will propel you faster than, it will blow your mind.
Definitely. So in terms of let's talk. Okay. So you talked about how people want to be good storytellers. They want to give generously. So in terms of then running a live stream, and then, for example, somebody wants to put like an overlay or some of those types of things on their broadcast, like, are there other ways? So how can you take that message that you're trying to tell people and incorporate some of that into your branding as well, through the visual side?
Sure. So I'm a total image girl, right? I love imagery, anything. And so again, this is your opportunity to be sharing your unique point of view over and over and over again. That's organically just going to turn into sales. Listen, there's no one on this planet that doesn't know that we're all into sales, right? We all have to work for a living. It's an exchange of energies, right? So that's fine. But doing it in a way where it's easily consumable for people, where they're still taking away real value, whether it's a quote like my quote of "there's plenty of spotlight to go around." That's just a unique way of me saying what other people have said for generations, right? Except now they can take it and they can make it their own, right? But every time they say it, who's going to be top of mind? And anyone that knows my brand out there is going to be like, oh, you're talking about spotlights. You also must, be connected or know or seen or heard of Joie Gharrity at some point as well. So there is what I call, like, you're creating a layer wedding cake. That's the way to look at it. So let's all marry ourselves, right? And each layer of your brand is another layer, but in the middle, right? You're not going to, who's been to these weddings where they do a different filling per layer? Okay. It's terrible. Okay. It's just such a bad idea. Right. Because I was at a wedding and my dad was just like, oh, I got cherry. And I'm like, oh, I got chocolate. He's like, well, I wanted chocolate. And I was like, what? Okay. Not a good idea. Right. Because it caused a lot of controversy at the table. Okay. But having the same filling, right, is what keeps your wedding brand cake rocking and rolling. And then you can be layering on top of layering, because as long as you have the same filling, right, it makes sense to the marketplace out there, right? Mine's always going to be visibility and influence. And now I have 5 divisions and it all falls underneath visibility and influence. So no one can say to me, oh, you're off brand. I'm like, I'm not off brand, because this is how you get more visibility and influence, whether it's through speaking, books, my visibility influence strategy systems, my second book that's coming out. However I'm rolling out my multiple streams of income, there's one heartbeat.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. When it comes to live streamings, are there any other ways that not only branding your own live stream, but let's say you, as an example, you're on our live stream today. How do you brand other people's live streams that, like you said, maybe you don't actually own?
Yeah. So I was producing shows for a little while. They're just, as we all know, they're very intensive. So everything down to the color coding of how people are doing, to the scrolls, to the act one, act two, act three, is how I suggest to people how to lay it out. So you always want to open with the same opening, right? You want to roll into your act one, which is always your heroine's journey, like the setup, right? The storytelling. Go into act two is just like, what are you learning from the journey? And as you're closing in act three, right, you want to be talking about your calls to action, right? Most people are watching you or looking for something because they're looking for tangibles that they can utilize themselves, but also too, how can this be of service to them, right? So I say to people, I say it's as much as I don't want people to throw things at me by me saying
Mm-hmm.
this, but it's a lot like TV. I mean, TV got this so early, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just like every time you heard the same tune, you knew that your
Mm-hmm.
favorite show was coming on, right? So like Game of Thrones, right? That's like one of my favorite shows of all time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So
it's great show.
you would hear that, you'd be in the other room in the kitchen, you'd run. Even if it's on Netflix or HBO, it doesn't matter, right? Because there's a familiarity, right? But however, whatever you're going to fill in the middle, right? The middle's got to go back to your cake filling, right? What's repetitive, right? And then it also has to you got to give value, right? And then you always want to end the same way so that you're bookending both sides.
And I think that's a great point because I think a lot of times, rather than thinking of that in a sense, that TV type opening, right? The
Right.
theme, you get a lot of people like, oh, I want a countdown timer because I'm more worried about people showing up to watch me live and they're missing an opportunity to get people to get that emotional connection to, maybe some upbeat music or upbeat intro video that kind of brings back memories of maybe past shows or things of that nature. And then I think the other part you bring up where I see a lot of struggles is that call to action. Like, you've watched my show, but it's like, what do I want you, the viewer, to do? We forget about that. Like, okay, we'll come back next week. But if you're a business and you're live streaming to
Mm-hmm.
generate business, at some point you have to do that ask, right? Because we want to know, what is it you want me to do? And we failed to ask. I love how you laid that out. In regards to our own shows now, and I guess like, but so I say as an example, if I'm on one of your shows, what can I do to help brand your show?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. One is that you have to treat each featured guest like a talent, right? You cannot leave it up to the talent to know what they're going to do. Let's all be honest. You gotta treat them like talent, right? So you send them the swipe file. You get them, you guys were excellent. You guys had all the links. You guys were so prepared. I knew what I was walking into, right? Last night I was going through the questions and the answers, right? Because you guys are branded. You guys are like, I want Joey to talk about dot dot dot, right? So you led me. You guys were leading me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing too is that I tell people, I'm like, getting out of your own backyard is how you build an empire, right? So it's essential that you have your featured guests tag you because and you're tagging them all over the place because therefore there's going to be people that have never even heard your name. They don't know who you are, but boy, because you're in that person's backyard and they're emotionally connected to that person, they're going to, and they repetitively are hearing about you, this is going to take it to a whole new level. Streaming really is, guys, the ultimate business card. It's the ultimate influential business card because you can get people on a show that you necessarily wouldn't be able to have introductions to before, right?
Mm-hmm.
I call people in Hollywood all the time and like, be on my show. A lot of people haven't been on live shows yet. So they're like, it's an easy yes. But
Mm-hmm.
then because they're emotionally connecting with you, and now that you're tagging, you're in their backyard. That is how you're elevating your business to a whole other level. It really is about how many backyards can you get into in a year.
I
Very good.
love that analogy. That's a great analogy. And I think to your point, it's like we don't think about those things sometimes. And it is so important to not only tag your guest and then also look for when they mention you and just that whole engagement piece. And I think that's where a lot, I mean, I think earlier point you brought up too is just from a branding perspective, it's amazing how small the percentage of companies or personal brands, if you want to call it, that are taking advantage of live streaming. It's probably
Mm,
still in single digits. And so it's
yes.
huge opportunity.
It is it for you all. Anyone that is in this, it's been in this movement, because essentially this is a movement, right? We jumped in early. We saw the flag, freedom flag rolling, right? We said yes, right, with the technology problems and all
Hmm.
the tweaks we had to go through, right? But we said yes because we saw where it was going to head, right? We saw what YouTube was able to do with the influencers, but we also saw that that was a very steep hill now, right? Because it's so indoctrinated, right? So this is really that next slice of pie that I was able to see down the road, and I was like, okay, right? I believe most people that are streaming know or believe that we're all going to one day have our own channels, right? We're all going to be our own Bravo. We're all going to have our own channels. And so having this content, we're really building content libraries is what we're doing, right? Content libraries that you can house and then you can repurpose in endless amounts of ways. When I work with my clients, I tell them, I said, their minds are blown of how many ways you can cut this pie. I said, yes, because one piece of content can go into syndication. You can put it into your electric signature. You can have them translated, and then it becomes a blog. You can sell products. You can sell. It's insane. But I think the big corporations and brands, the reason that they haven't jumped fully on board is because they also see that there's a big learning curve to this, and they all went through it when the internet really took off, right? The big studios were like, what do I do with this internet thing, right? And a lot of them got burned, right? Because they had people come in and just go, oh, just do this, just do that, and it wasn't moving the needle, right? So I feel like the big brands are sitting back and going, when we see the needle move, we'll jump on board. That's what I mean. That's my prediction, is that
Right.
they're still like, yeah, we're not investing until we see some needles.
Well, and I think the other piece is, right, it's the consistency. It's like you said, when you
Yeah.
keep creating content and you build that library, now there's a lot more to fall back on, where I think there's that idea of we want instant results. It's like, well, I went live and nobody watched me. Well, it's like, well, nobody knows about you yet.
It's like being an author and coming out with a book and saying, well, I came out with a book, no one's reading it, so they don't know who you are yet. Give it a minute. You got to get the influence up. It's like a blockbuster. It takes 2 years to fill a theater, right? 2 years. We haven't even shot yet, right? And now we're already thinking about how I'm filling theaters. So I'm telling people the same thing. But guys, I have so much content like you two that I literally put it on syndication, and I had enough shows to auto respond them for 1 full year,
Hmm.
Wow.
right? Not show up, like just put them in autoresponder, right? Right. Tag all these people, right? And the incredible tangibles and value. There's so much
Yeah.
value in these shows. And I just was like syndicating them. And I was talking to a client the other day and I said, I have so many shows that I could probably easily do a year and a half, probably going 2 years pretty soon, because I'm starting to bank shows. I'm starting to actually bank as many shows as I can for another full rollout again, right? That's a lot of content. It's a lot of content, and it's content where there's some other influencer that has another backyard. They have their own numbers. They have their own expertise, right? And now you both are spotlighting and leveraging each other, right? That's the kind of marketing that you can't pay for that. It would be impossible because it's organic, and it's very generous. And even if the marketplace isn't watching all your shows, they certainly know that you have shows.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And these are all great points. I mean, and to your point, I mean, about basically taking the content and just syndicating it all.
Yes.
That's one thing. You want to stay top of mind. And the great way to do that is to make sure on the right show. We talked about that on episode 41 with Marco. And so we talked with him about finding the right guests, and in this case, making sure you're getting on other people's shows because that is helping you get out there. I mean, and using the TV model just real quick. I mean, by the way, I talk about all the time, Jim, like the TV model. Hey, if you don't know what to do for an intro or how to structure your show, go watch a TV episode, go watch a movie. It's the same process every time. It doesn't change very much. It's the
Yeah.
same thing though with, again, I mean, with live streaming. I mean, if somebody wants to do a live stream and they want to get some more exposure, all they need to do, I don't say all, but one of the key things is they go and they have their live stream. And then what ends up happening, they, if you think about it from a Hollywood perspective, probably, what did they do? Somebody's got a movie coming out. They go book them on all the other shows, the talk show, for example, or maybe there's maybe a news station might be doing some piece on something. They go and get on those shows so that then people they're getting on the major networks, they're getting the exposure, and obviously they're getting their brand out there, and and they're able to then increase their reach. So it makes perfect sense, especially when you're talking about branding and amplifying your brand when live streaming.
Yes, it's a beautiful way. I mean, I'm even going so far as I'm putting certain shows into pods, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my second book comes out next October, okay, in 2021, right? And so every single show that's concentrated on the book, right? I'm podding them together,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm rolling them out in sequences, but as a unit. So I'm saying to people, if you don't want to wait for my book to come out, right? I'm giving real tangibles on these shows. Just watch the shows. I'm like, and you can walk away with, frankly, all the secrets I'm putting into the book. I mean, honestly, and I'm okay with that. I want them to. But however, guys, think about this, audience members. Think about, you take 3 or 4 of the same theme shows that you've been on or that you've created, wrap them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Wrap them with the same thread, and now tag every single guest on that. And that's actually a strategy of mine. It's called the banana split. The 113 branding strategy is called banana split. You can find it out there online. And the banana split is that it's 2 or more people, or you're starting to tag and everyone starts tagging each other. It's insane. You'll have people like even like privately like calling you or IMing you saying, "What's going on?" Like you're everywhere, they're everywhere. It's not really. It's maybe like 5 people, but it's because our numbers are so big,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. So if people want to learn more about you, learn more about some of these methods, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Sure. So they can go to 113branding.com and they can find me there and my books and everything there. And they can also find me online on social media across every platform. And it's Joie Gharrity, it's JYE, and then it's GHARRITY. And I also have a book. It's called The Red Carpet Guide to Visibility Influence. And so they can get a copy of that there. I put a bunch of tangibles in there as well. And then my second book will be called Be Your Own Superstar.
Fantastic. So be your own superstar. So we'll have to make sure we put all the links to these in the show notes. But I want to thank you for joining us,
Thank you,
and
guys.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in, whether you're watching on our YouTube channel or listening to the podcast. But thanks for joining us for episode 42 of the Launch Your Life podcast, where we discussed ways to amplify your brand when live streaming with Joie Gharrity. So remember, if you need help with live streaming, contact us for a consultation by messaging us through our Facebook page at Launch Your Live. And for more information on this particular episode, go to launcher.live/EP42. We will see you all on a future episode. Thanks a lot.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.